Welcome to Knife Chats. If you like this video, please take a moment to leave a comment. Thank you. Rough Rider recently surprised me with the medium Stockman in the Backwoods Bushcrafter Series, so I thought I would share my opinions of it with you. So let's take a look at the RR1846 Backwoods Bushcrafter medium Stockman. And we'll start here right in the front with the shield. If you can see there, it's a Rough Rider always ready on a, I'm not sure what kind of shield you'd call that, but I do know one thing you can call it, and that's copper. So it's got a nice copper shield there, got wonderful copper pins, nice and flush with the saw cut bone, and then you've got these pinched nickel silver bolsters with the ring, and the front one there has the Rough Rider R on it, and you see on the back here, copper liners, stainless steel back springs, saw cut bone on the other side, nice and smooth too. The only one that's a little proud is the main pin here that holds the springs in place. You can feel that a little bit, but these are smooth and flush with the bone. Just really good build on there. And then you got the black stone-washed finish blades. You got your California clip for the main blade, nice skinny clip blade, match striker pull. If you can notice there, it's got a wonderful swedge. Got your Rough Rider tang stamp there. Backside gives all the detail, including the number. 440 razor sharp steel, so you know what kind of steel you got. 440A. Nice half stop. Then your other blade you have with it, half stop on your spay blade. Again with the swedge and the match striker pull and the RR's tang stamp. Really good action on the blades. And then you got the sheep foot here too. So the two back blades open from the back side. Sometimes you'll see the sheep foot opening from the front side, but not on this one. So you got your RR there again. So everything works really good, nice and tight. Let's get the main blade there. Yeah, no wiggle or anything on the blades. That's me not having, well, I gotta turn it around first, don't I? There we go. Yeah, nice and tight on that one too. No wobbles everywhere. So really good tight blades on here, and as you can tell, it just looks fantastic. It kind of reminds me of the old timer middleman jack, and we'll take a look at that real quick. Well, to begin with, the old timer by Schrade is a 3 1/4 inch Stockman, as opposed to a 3 1/2 inch Stockman, so it's a little bit smaller. You can't quite tell as well, but this also has the saw cut bone and a darker brown. It has the skinny clip blade, or the California clip blade, which isn't bad. And the other blades it has also open from the back side. You have a pin blade, which I do like the pin blade better than a spay blade. Unfortunately, with the middleman Stockman, or middleman jack, which they call it, it also has a spay blade. So much for having, if it would have had a sheep foot blade, this knife would have been ideal for me, but it also has a spay blade and a pin blade. So I would have loved this one if it would have had a pin blade, but this this spay blade, it's pretty close to a pin blade. Let's take a look at the two. Now, because the middleman jack is only 3 1/4 inches long, all of its blades are slightly shorter. Now, I could easily turn this into a pin blade with a grinding stone if I wanted to do it, but I'm not going to. But there you have the old timer's middleman jack, and this knife is pretty darn close to it. It's just a little bit bigger, but you can see they're both nice serpentine Stockmans, and they're really a great size for the pocket. The difference is this was made in the USA a long time ago, and you're lucky if you can find one, and if you can, it's probably going to be more than $14.99 these days, unless you get one that's made in China, which might be about the same price, but the quality is not going to be the same, because Schrade uses a 400 series steel of nondescript origin versus a 440A that Rough Rider is using. Not to mention, this really has some terrific looking saw cut bone. So that's really what I really enjoy on this knife. It just looks fantastic. Let's compare it to an older Rough Rider. Okay, first let's look at saw cut bone to saw cut bone. This is the old sow belly in the saw cut bone series compared to the Bushcrafter medium Stockman. And you can see that the sow belly is a much thicker knife, and I really do like sow bellies because they give you a larger blade. That's not to say that the serpentine Stockman isn't a bad little knife, because the skinnier blade and everything makes it a much smaller knife in your pocket and everything else. And I think this is probably a much more friendly pocket carry, and I think it's also a more popular knife than the sow belly. But I think the sow belly works better as a work knife, so hopefully the Backwoods Bushcrafter will also come out in a sow belly. I do have one other Rough Rider in the 3.5 inch medium Stockman, and that's my one in Stag here, and it's slightly different than the newer Backwoods Bushcrafter. One of the main differences obviously is the blade does not have the half stop, but if you can see here with the sheepfoot blade, the sheepfoot blade is grabbed from the front on this one, as opposed to with a back match striker pull. You can still pull it from the front, but it's a little trickier. You need to know where it is. Despite the sheepfoot blade dropping in lower into the frame, it still has the same thickness and such. You can see that here on there. Same thickness and everything else. And you can see here that they're about the same thickness in size too. Kind of hard to tell because of the stainless steel has a more of a glint in the light and everything. Plus the swedge makes the top of it look a lot smaller. If we look at the main blades, you can see it a little bit better here. Yeah, about the same thickness, despite being an older knife. The match striker pull is obviously located in a different place, and you have mirror polish finish versus a stone wash finish. But otherwise, knives both look pretty good, which doesn't surprise me. I mean, Rough Rider tries to keep their quality up at all times, which is really nice. Oops, wrong blade. And there you have the space. They did not change much. Obviously you see the difference because of the swedge there. So that's the way it compares to the older Rough Rider and Stag. I'm sure a lot of people would like the Stag better, and I actually like the Stag better too. But you're not going to find this ever again, probably. Other than that, this is really a cool looking knife, and the copper and everything is great. If they could do this in Stag, they could make a mint off of it probably. But yeah, just a really good knife overall. Very impressed with it, and really do enjoy it. I like it, and unfortunately, so far they've only got a few knives in the series. Hopefully they'll have a few more show up, and they do have other knives with copper bolsters, and we'll take a look at a few of those too. So if you're digging the copper in the Backwoods Bushcrafter series as much as I do, then you'll probably also be interested in a couple other series that have copper bolsters and such. First one I'll look at is the Copper Stone series, and if you notice, it's got copper bolsters, copper liners, and then you have these acrylic handles that look like a white stone with copper veins running through it, and also you have the 440A stainless steel blades with an anodized copper coating. So you've got a lot of copper on this knife if you're interested in it. Another one they have is just called the Copper Series, and it features smooth black bone and black stonewash blades, just like you have in the Bushcrafter series. So it's a very close cousin to it. The difference is the bolsters aren't slanted, but you do have the Rough Rider R on the front. If you notice, though, it has the older horseshoe shield on it for the tang. This one's pretty cool because it also has the fish hook bail on the end, but and not to mention a hook sharpener. But there's several knives in the Copper series that are pretty cool. And the last Copper series is called the Copper Ridge. I currently don't have any knives in the Copper Ridge series, but it looks like a pretty cool series. The handles are buffalo horn. As you can tell, they have smooth bolsters and also the anodized copper coating on the 440 stainless steel blades. Looks like a pretty cool looking series, especially if you're into buffalo horn. And just to cap it off, these are the current knives that I've noticed in the Copper Stone series. It's a small series, and it seems to feature small patterns other than the standard trapper. And finally, I've only picked up the fish knife so far in the Copper series, but there's definitely a couple other knives in there that I'm going to just have to pick up, like that moose and that teardrop. They just look fantastic. So those are the other knives that feature copper. So if you're not getting enough copper in your Backwoods Bushcrafter series, there's 3 other series by Rough Rider that also has copper. Next up is my wish list of knives that I think should also be in the Backwoods Bushcrafter series. And I'm going to start with this one right here, the Granddaddy Barlow. This one already has the saw cut bone, but now just imagine that with a slanted R bolster up at the top, say the bolster starting right about there and then slanting down that way, and then being all copper with that Rough Rider R up on the top there. That would be something you do not see very often in a Barlow, especially a big old Granddaddy Barlow. And then imagine all that blade being black stone wash. That would just look fantastic on this big old knife, and it already comes with the half stop, so that would be just cool as can be as far as I'm concerned. If you can just picture that, that would be just totally cool as far as I'm concerned. The other knife, okay, you can call me crazy, but in this case I think I'm correct. This knife really does belong in the Backwoods Bushcrafter series, the camp knife. Why? Well, first of all, the Boy Scouts adopted it way back in 1911, so they thought it was the perfect knife for using out in the woods. And then the U.S. military also adopted it sometime in the 1930s, and they continued using a camp knife all the way through the Vietnam War and beyond. So these 4 blades have been in the woods more than just about any other knife that you can think of, and it's iconic. So I can't imagine a reason not to have it in the Backwoods Bushcrafter series. So just imagine that with slanted bolsters and the saw cut bone and all that copper. I think it would be fantastic. And yeah, I know the one by Rough Rider does not have the half stop, but if they could remedy that, it would be perfect. And if they didn't remedy it, I would still accept it in the Backwoods Bushcrafter series because a camp knife just belongs there. And yes, there were actual camp knives that had half stops. This is one by the Iroquois Knife Company from way back in the 1920s, and you can see good half stop going on here. It's a little weak on the main blade, but you can feel it when you're opening it. It also had a half stop. Same with the screwdriver. It's just a little worn out, but then the knife is close to 100 years old. So yeah, camp knife, Backwoods Bushcrafter series, that's my bet. That's what should be there. Of course, Rough Rider knows what it's doing, but if there's knives that you think should be in the Backwoods Bushcrafter series, leave it in the comments section below, and I'll pass it on to Rough Rider. Because, hey, it's a cool series, and the more the merrier as far as I'm concerned. Let's look at the other knives in the series now. As you can read in the general description here, all of the blades have a half stop unless the knife has locking blades. If it has locking blades, then there won't be a half stop. You'll also see here that the copper will develop a patina over time, so that's something to look out for. So first up, we have the RR1843 4-inch Hawkbill. So it's going to have a 3-inch blade. And if you notice here, it does have a lanyard hole. RR1844 is the doctor's knife. This is a 3 3/4 inch pill crusher with a single spear blade, and anyone who collects doctor's knives is really going to be happy with this. So this is one that's going to appeal to both the people who just collect doctor's knives and anyone who is interested in the series itself. Really cool looking knife. RR1842 is the 3 1/4 inch double lockback, which means these blades do not have a half stop. However, this pattern is one of those patterns that just really intrigues me. It's a cross between a canoe and a muskrat, and it's just a pattern that I really love. So I know I'll be picking up this one. And that brings us to the RR1840 4 1/8 inch standard trapper. So that'll be 3 1/2 inch blades on it. And as you notice, it has double match striker pulls on the clip blade. It also has those on the spay blade. So a pretty cool knife, especially for all those trapper fans out there. And that brings us back to the knife that started it all, the RR1846 medium Stockman. I think I failed to mention the length of the blades. It's a 2 5/8 inch clip blade, a 2-inch sheepfoot blade, and a 1 7/8 inch spay blade. I was really impressed with the way the Bushcrafter Stockman looked. The saw cut bone and that copper and those black wash blades just come together in like a trifecta of perfection. It just looks fantastic. But more importantly, it's just a solid, well-made knife. The walk and talk with those half stops is terrific. The fit and finish is comparable to knives 3 or 4 times its price. And the blades truly are razor sharp. And yes, I know they're 440A stainless steel, but I tell you what, you're going to find companies using 440 stainless steel and knives that cost a whole lot more than this that are not going to look nearly as nice or work nearly as well. My only grief so far is that there's only 5 knives in the series. I'm pretty certain there's at least 8 and 3 of them just have not shown up yet, but I'm hoping the series becomes a whole lot more than just 8 knives. So if you've got a comment or a suggestion for another knife that you'd like to see in this Bushcrafter series, please leave it in my comments below and I'll pass it on to Rough Rider because I would really love this series to expand like the Outdoorsman series did in the past. This series needs to have all sorts of knives in it, including a few fixed blades maybe. Well, at least that's my 2 cents on the series. And I hope you enjoyed the video and talk to you again soon. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Knife Chats, and if you did, please like and share it with your friends. Comments are always welcome. Don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode of Knife Chats is up online. Thanks again. Hope to see you soon.